Mara woke up before the sun did. She always woke up early on this day, not because of an alarm, not because of noise. She woke up because her body remembered, even before her mind did, that today was the most important day of the year. Today was Calem's birthday. She lay still for a moment and listened. The small house was quiet. Outside, a bird called once and then stopped. The curtains moved slowly in the early morning breeze. Everything was calm and soft and safe. The kind of morning that made you want to believe the world was a good place. Then she remembered what she had felt 3 days ago. A low, deep pulse in the air, like a sound that was too far away to hear, but close enough to feel in your chest. She had been standing at the kitchen window when it happened. Her hands had gone still. Her breath had stopped. She knew what that feeling meant. She had felt it before, a long time ago, in a different life. She pushed the feeling away. She got up. She went to the kitchen and began to make Calem's birthday cake. Chocolate. It was always chocolate. He had asked for it every year since he was old enough to ask, and she had made it every year with the same steady hands and the same quiet ache in her heart. She cracked the eggs carefully. She mixed everything slowly. She tried to think only about the cake and not about the feeling she had pushed away. Calem was 6 today. 6 years. She turned the number over in her mind, the way you turn a stone over in your hand, feeling the weight of it. 6 years since she had left everything behind. 6 years since she had run through the dark with nothing except the clothes on her back and a secret growing inside her that she had told no one. 6 years since she had built this small, quiet life in a small, quiet town, far from palaces and politics and pain. She had done it for him. She told herself that every day she had hidden them both, changed their names, kept their heads down and their lives simple, all of it for Calem. To keep him safe, to give him a normal life, to protect him from a world that would have looked at his gold-shifting eyes and seen something to be claimed rather than a child to be loved. The cake went into the oven. She set the timer. She sat down at the kitchen table and looked out the window at the pale morning light beginning to spread across the trees. She thought, as she always did on this day, about his face. Not Calem's face. The other one. The face she had spent 6 years trying to forget and never quite managed to. The strong jaw, the dark eyes, the way he used to look at her like she was something rare and true in a world full of performance and pretending. Aldrich Cale, the Alpha King of the Northern Realm, the most powerful wolf alive, and the only person on Earth who did not know he had a son. She closed her eyes. She had made her choice 6 years ago, and she would not unmake it now. She had made it for reasons that were real and serious, and she had to keep believing they were right. Otherwise, she did not know how she would keep going. The timer rang. The cake was ready. She heard small feet on the stairs. Calem appeared in the kitchen doorway in his pajamas, his dark hair sticking up on one side, his eyes still half closed with sleep. He was small for his age, but strong, with a quick, serious face that could switch to total joy in an instant. And his eyes, when he was happy, when he laughed, when something surprised him, his eyes went gold. A deep, warm, undeniable gold that no ordinary human child had ever had. She had bought him tinted glasses when he was 4. He wore them outside. At home, he did not need to. "Is it today?" he asked. "It is today," she said. He smiled. It was the kind of smile that made her chest feel full and broken at the same time. They spent the morning the way they always did on his birthday. She let him choose everything. He chose pancakes for breakfast, and a walk in the park, and a game they played with cards that she always pretended to lose but sometimes lost for real. He was getting smarter. She noticed it every week, how quickly he learned things, how many questions he asked, how far ahead he seemed to think for a boy his age. In the afternoon, her sister Sarah came over with a present wrapped in blue paper. Sarah was human, warm and funny, and a little nervous about everything, and she had helped Mara from the very beginning. She was the only person in this town who knew the whole truth. She kept it the way you keep something precious, carefully, quietly, without ever being asked to prove it. Sarah hugged Calem and he let her, which was a sign of great trust from him. He did not like being hugged by people he was not sure about. He had a way of knowing, even before he met someone, whether they were safe or not. Mara had stopped trying to explain this to herself. She just accepted it. In the evening, the three of them went to a small restaurant near the water. It was Caleb's favorite because the owner always let him look at the fish tank near the front door, and he could spend 10 minutes just watching the fish move before he was willing to go to the table. Mara and Sarah waited. They were used to this. They ordered pasta. Caleb got lemonade with a straw. He was in the middle of explaining to Sarah, very seriously, how he thought fish probably had feelings, when Mara looked up. The restaurant door had opened. A man stood in the doorway. He was tall, very tall, broad through the shoulders, dressed in dark clothes, completely still. He was looking across the restaurant with an expression that Mara could not immediately read, not because it was hidden, but because it was too much feeling in one face at once. Like a person who has been carrying something very heavy for a very long time and has just now set it down. His eyes found hers. The world went quiet. Mara had prepared for this moment, in the abstract way that you prepare for something you hope will never happen. She had thought about what she would say, what she would do, how she would protect Caleb, how she would run. She had plans. She had backup plans. Every single one of them left her mind completely. Because Caleb, who had been talking about fish feelings, had turned to see what his mother was looking at, and now he was looking too, and he had gone very still. "Mama?" he said, quietly and simply, the way he said things when he was absolutely certain of them. "That is the sad king from my drawings." Mara stopped breathing. For 2 years, Caleb had been drawing the same face. She had never asked him why or who it was. Children drew things. She told herself it meant nothing. She put the drawings in a folder and tried not to look at them. She was looking now. She was looking at the real face instead. Aldrich had not moved from the doorway. He was looking at the boy. She watched his expression go through something that was hard to name. Recognition, disbelief, and then something softer and more devastating than either. His eyes, dark and steady, moved from Caleb's face to hers, and back again. Mara stood up. She did not run. She had promised herself once, standing alone in a hospital room with a newborn in her arms, that she was done running. It had taken 6 years for that promise to be truly tested. She went to the door. She told Sarah with her eyes to stay with Caleb. Sarah grabbed his hand and nodded. Mara stepped outside. The night air was cool. The street was quiet. Aldrich came out behind her and they stood a few feet apart on the pavement. And for a moment, neither of them spoke. 6 years of silence between them. And now they were 2 feet apart, and the silence was still there, but it was a different kind now. It was not empty. It was full of everything they had never said. "You have been looking for me," she said. It was not a question. "Since the night you left," he said. His voice was the same, low, steady. It had always been steady. She used to find that comforting. Now it made her want to cry, which made her angry. "I left because I had to," she said. "I left because I had to, and I was afraid, and I did not know if I would survive staying." She expected him to argue, to defend himself, to say she was wrong about what happened. He did not. He reached into his coat and took out a folded set of papers. He held them out to her. His hand was completely steady. She took the papers and looked at them in the light from the restaurant window. She read again. She read a third time, slower. It was a detailed account of the night she had fled, not his version, not her version. A documented account, with dates and names and statements from people who had been in the palace that night. People who had seen things. People who had stayed quiet for years and then, eventually, had not stayed quiet anymore. She learned, standing on a pavement on Caleb's 6th birthday, that Aldrich had not chosen to hurt her. He had been given something, in his drink, at the ceremony, by his own family, something that interfered with his ability to control himself. He had no memory of that night. He had woken up the next morning, and she was gone, and he had spent 6 years not knowing why, only knowing that something terrible had happened, that he could not remember and could not undo. Her hands were shaking by the time she finished reading. "Why are you showing me this now?" she asked. "Because you deserve to know the truth," he said. "And because I saw your son's eyes through the window before I came in. And I need you to understand that I am not here to take anything from you. I am not here to make demands. I came because I have been looking for you for 6 years, and tonight I finally found you. And whatever happens next, I needed you to know what I know." She looked at him for a long time. She was trying to find the lie in it. She was very good at finding lies. After 6 years of protecting herself and her son, by trusting almost no one, she could not find one. "He drew your face," she said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted it to. "For 2 years he has been drawing your face. He called you the Sad King. He has never seen a photograph of you. He has never heard your name." Aldrich was quiet for a moment. "May I meet him?" She looked back through the restaurant window. Calum was watching them from his seat, very calmly, with the particular patience of a child who has decided something and is simply waiting for the adults to catch up. Sarah had her hand on his shoulder. "One conversation," Mara said. "Tonight, and then we figure out the rest, slowly, carefully, and on terms that do not frighten him." "Agreed," Aldrich said. They went back inside. Calum watched Aldrich walk toward the table with the focused attention he gave to things he considered important. He was not frightened. He was curious. When Aldrich stopped in front of him, the boy looked up at the tallest person who had ever stood near him and said, without any hesitation at all, "Are you sad?" Aldrich was quiet for a moment. Then, slowly, he crouched down so that his eyes were level with the boy's. "I was," he said. "I think I am not anymore." Calum considered this seriously. Then he nodded, as if this was the correct answer to a question he had been wondering about for some time. "Okay," he said. Mara sat down. Her legs did not feel entirely reliable. Sarah poured her a glass of water and pushed it toward her without saying anything, which was exactly the right thing to do. They stayed in the restaurant for another hour. Aldrich sat with them and spoke carefully, following Calum's questions rather than leading the conversation. Calum asked about wolves, which he had always been deeply interested in, and which no one in his life could tell him much about. Aldrich answered honestly, with patience and detail. By the end of the hour, Calum had moved his chair closer to Aldrich's, without appearing to notice he had done it. Mara noticed. Walking home later, Calum's hand in hers, she thought about the papers folded in her coat pocket. She thought about what 6 years of protecting someone really meant. She had protected her son from uncertainty, from politics, from a world that might have treated him as a prize rather than a person. She did not regret that. She would not apologize for it. But she also looked at him now, walking beside her in the dark, already asking when he would see the tall man again, and she understood something she had not let herself understand before. She had protected him from the danger. She had also kept him from the part that was not dangerous. The part that crouched down to meet his eyes and said, "I think I am not sad anymore." That part had been real too. The next weeks were not simple. They were careful and slow and full of difficult conversations. There were decisions to make about how much would change and how fast. Mara made clear from the beginning that her life was her own, and that Calum's daily life would not be disrupted by anyone, regardless of who they were. Aldrich accepted this without argument. He showed up when he was invited. He kept his word every time. He asked permission for things instead of assuming he had it. It took time. It took patience. It took both of them choosing, again and again, to be honest rather than defensive. Calum, for his part, adapted the way children do, completely and without drama. He filed Aldrich away as a true and important thing in his life and moved on to being curious about what was for dinner. 1 year later, on Calum's 7th birthday, Mara and Aldrich stood side by side in the kitchen at midnight, trying to make a wolf-shaped cake. It was not going well. The frosting was the wrong color, and the wolf looked more like a surprised rabbit. Mara started laughing first, and could not stop. And then Aldrich laughed too, quietly, like a man who is remembering what it feels like. Calum came downstairs in his pajamas to see what was happening. He looked at the cake for a long moment. "It is perfect," he said. And for the first time in 6 years, standing in a warm kitchen, with chocolate frosting on her hands, and her son smiling at a terrible cake, Mara believed that something actually was.